just a few miles away from the beach that is known as Daytona Beach, you find the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, the home of the start of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series for tonight's Homenet Hosting 250 here at the famed racetrack. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth, as always, here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series is Greg Renson. Greg, it's a new season. It's 2021. We're going to have a new champion this year, and Homenet Hosting jumping on board for the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series race number 1 of the season. It's going to be a fun one here tonight.
Oh man, Peter, I am so fired up to be back here, not just with the American Sim Racing Series, Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, but I'm fired up to be back on 3Y TV as well. It's been a while since we've gotten to hang out here and watch some good old-fashioned racing here on 3Y TV, and what better way to kick it off here for the 2021 season than by right here at Daytona, the 2.5-mile World Center of Racing, 100 laps, 250 miles the distance. Peter, I am so excited to be back, and we're going to kick this off right with Daytona coming up here right now.
Yeah, we have a huge field here tonight, as always, in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, again with just a stacked field. If you didn't join us last week for the duels to kick off the season, folks, you missed out. You missed out on a very fantastic race. In fact, 2 very fantastic races right here on 3Y TV, and they're very worthy of checking out, both of them. They're 2 very interesting races, Greg. I don't think I've ever seen races at Daytona quite like those duels, but hopefully here tonight we see a race unlike any other that we've seen here on 3Y TV, a stellar race, because it is a packed field. A bunch of cars tried to work their way into the field. We did see some cars go home last week, but here tonight, we're going to see who's going to pick up the first Midwest Simulations Pole Award of the season here in the Midwest Simulations Pole qualifying session.
Yeah, going to be definitely interesting. Some drivers were chomping at the bit to get out there here, as we see, I believe this is Larry Orn in the number 31, kind of a Richard Childress vibe on board the number 31 of Larry Orn. We saw him, of course, in the Throwback Series last year, Peter, driving the Ford Lumina we came to know it as, but here he is. He got himself his Premier Series license. He's making his Hacksaw PC's Premier Series debut here in the number 31, going out to try to set the bar in the early stages as drivers are on track for their first points-paying qualifying session of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, for the drivers who made it here tonight, the top 20 in points from last season in last season's Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, they were locked into the show here tonight. Everyone else had to qualify their way in through last week's duels right here at Daytona to make it into the Homenet Hosting 250. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to walk away with that pole. A lot of new faces, a lot of new cars out there on the racetrack, like you mentioned there with the number 31 of Larry Orn, but also a new night this season, Greg. We're on Wednesday nights. Last season, of course, and the season prior to that, we were on Tuesday nights, but the move over to Wednesday night here all season long, going to be a lot of fun, folks. I hope you put it on your schedule. I hope you set up a reminder and hit the notification bell right here on 3Y TV so you don't miss out, because it is a very long season, and we're going to be watching the season evolve all the way through to the end of the year. We'll get to crown a champion. And speaking of champion, what about Greg Evans and the number 2 machine? Hot off his wife having a new child. That number was the number 2 machine. Definitely Greg Evans going to be someone that these drivers are going to have to think about all season long. They're going to try and replicate what he did last season.
Yeah, defending series champion goes to 4th on his first lap, Peter. His first lap put him in the top 5 when many drivers have already laid down 2 laps. That is something to raise some concern in the camps of the other guys, especially when they know that it's the defending series champion going down the backstretch right now, sitting 5th on the board right now. Right now, Pete Baskins make it Tyler Seville on top of the board. Seville with a new look on board his Will Forstler entry tonight, so it'll be definitely interesting to see these new names in new places, new numbers, new paint schemes. It's going to take us a couple of races to really get it dialed in, as now we have a new guy up at the front, Thomas George in the number 88, making his debut this season to the top of the board in this one. And Evans does not pick up a whole lot of time on his second lap, so he is going to go 14th on the board right now. Thomas George on top of the board.
Yeah, Thomas Georgia, 47.661 lap time, just a couple thousandths of a second faster than Tyler Seville. And how about the number 69, Adam Jursky, the Beef Jerski's cheesecake machine of last season, running a little bit different scheme here tonight, very similar to a paint scheme you would see on a Midwest home improvement store. And that number 69 machine, we know that home improvement store. We won't mention names, but we know someone's a big fan of it in the chat. And also now we're seeing Jeff Yenish, one of the Yenishes, and he put on a stellar show to lock himself into the show with last week's race. Really took everyone by surprise, made it on fuel in that number 89 machine to make it to the checkered flag first in the first of the two duels.
Sorry, Peter. We were introduced to Jeff Yenish right after the conclusion of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series last year when we did that special Car of Tomorrow race at Homestead. Jeff Yenish was among several drivers, including his brother, who's also in the field tonight, and a couple of other drivers that came to us here. It was kind of a combo race between the ASRS, who we're seeing tonight, and the Lionheart Racing Series. And there was a combo race in the Car of Tomorrow, and really we got introduced, and we said, hey, if the Yenish brothers can make it into the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, they might be able to put up some stats here and make a run for the championship. And I think we're seeing that already as Jeff Yenish sits fourth on the board right now. Drivers still making their way out, several new drivers. This is going to take quite some time to get used to, but man, I am excited. A new season, tons of stuff to get ready for here. Qualifying just over halfway through. Last couple of cars trickling out for their qualifying effort. George, Black, Seville, Yenish, Jursky, your top five. Then Baskins, Knott, Mahan, Stewart, and Jordan Harnish, another one of those new drivers in new places here this season. Harnish is joining up with Loud Pedal Motorsports, driving the number 27 this season. We saw him in the 32 last year, one of several new drivers joining new teams this year.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how everything plays out as the season goes on. Folks, if you're in the chat right now, make sure to give the video a like button, because that not only helps us out here at 3YTV, but it also helps out the American Sim Racing Series and Hacksaw PC Premier Cup Series. Just adds a little bit extra exposure to the league. So let's see if we can get a little bit of a like spike and get that blue thumb down there on the bottom hand corner of the screen, as well as a couple new sponsors this season to go along with the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. You saw one up there in the top left-hand corner of your screen there, Gunskins. And we also have a Sim Speed Shop, which is sponsoring one of the other American Sim Racing Series seasons this year. So a big shout out to those folks for jumping on board. I'm sure we're going to see a couple of other returning sponsors, like you see right there, American Regardless. Make sure you check out their website. Fantastic quality product, t-shirts, American made by a U.S. veteran. So make sure you check them out, and you'll see a couple of the others up there as well. Very, very cool to really see all the people who put together this season right from the very beginning, right here at Daytona, all the way through to the final race of the year.
Yeah, it's awesome, and we got to love these new partners coming aboard and really helping us out here. This, not just with this series, but for other series in general. We couldn't do it without the help of our great sponsors here on 3YTV and with the American Sim Racing Series, Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. So definitely a huge thank you to them. We'll be giving them love throughout, not just tonight, but the entire season as well. But Peter, qualifying's just about wrapped up. 38 drivers have taken time here thus far, with a couple more that still have yet to hit the track. So we are definitely going to have a full field for tonight's Homestead Housing 250.
Yeah, the Homenet Homenet Hosting. Man, we can't get it. I'm thinking about Homestead Miami. That's next week already.
That's what I'm thinking too. My bad.
Yeah, we stay in Florida for next week's 3YTV 200. How about that, folks? But Homenet Hosting here tonight at Daytona. Make sure you check them out. Fantastic league sponsor, and we're going to see a little bit more of Homenet Hosting throughout the year, really jumping on board and sponsoring multiple races, including at Iowa, Kansas, and a couple of others. So great sponsor here on the league, as we have just about 1 minute left here, and it does look like Thomas J. George in the number 88 will be picking up the first Midwest Simulations Pole Award, as a couple of the other cars out there have yet to turn a lap, and I don't see them spooled up at all. So that looks like it will do it for qualifying. We did have a couple of drivers at the back of the field not take time. Some of those drivers are going home. They were alternates here for the show tonight. They were drivers who just missed out last week on the duels on qualifying for what is one of the biggest races of the season. And folks, we will be going all the way through November 3rd. So that will kind of give you an indication. Of course, there'll be a couple of off weeks here and there, but the Gunskins.com Phoenix Championship 200, November 3rd, 2021. It's a long way from now, Greg. There are a lot of races. There's a lot of different opportunities to work your way into the playoffs, and these drivers will have to all start thinking about points here tonight to make that playoff push.
Going to be very, very fun to watch it all unfold. We are getting ready here for the green flag because, Peter, drivers are climbing into their cars. It's time to go. We are no longer waiting. It's time to go. We are gearing up for the start of the season.
I absolutely love to see cars out there on the racetrack for the first time, and it is Thomas J. George, like I mentioned in that race car right there, picking up the pole award here tonight, brought to you by Midwest Simulations. Make sure you go check them out. Evan Black in the number 92 to the outside, starting on row number 1. Starting in the 3rd position on the inside, that will be the number 11 of Tyler Seville. A little bit of a new look to that 11 this year. And to his outside, Jeff Yenish in the number 89 machine, who put on a stellar run last week in the duels. Can he back that up here tonight? On the inside of row number 3, the number 69 Beef Jerski's Cheesecakes machine of Adam Jersky. And to the outside, the DMLC Racing Channel number 39 of Pete Baskets. Starting in the 7th position, it is the number 41 of Tim Knott. Very similar look to what we saw last year. Got Gunskins on the hood of Knott's machine. And to his outside, the Mahan Speed Laboratories, number 84 of Woody Mahan. In the 9th position on the inside of row number 5, that is, of course, the Checkered Flag PC's number 1 of Jason Stewart, with the number 27 machine of Jordan Harnish. Also got the Beef Jerky's Cheesecakes emblazoned on the side of that race car. He'll be starting tonight from P10.
Couple more loud pedal cars making up row number 6. Brian Yazik, the winner last year at Kentucky and the All-Star winner, had one of the strongest second halves in the series last year, with Michael Krobach, Development Series champion from last year, starting 12. John Eckert and Jackson Van Volkenberg making up row number 7. Larry Orn, we talked about him, the Throwback Series driver from last year, with Danny Gutierrez in 16th position. Defending series champion Greg Evans will kick off his title defense from 17th, with Michael Whiting, who is outside, still looking for that first win. Michael Whiting and, Nick Gardner and Scott Eckridge round up the top 20.
Starting in the 21st position is the number 28 of Troy Haight, with Jimmy McKee to his outside, right there on row number 11. Then on row number 12, we got the 94 of Corey Silva. Wasn't in the Premier Series last year, but he was 2 seasons ago. Very, very fast. We'll be keeping an eye on Corey here tonight. And the number 24 of Alan Young, who made it into the playoffs with a stellar push in that number 24 machine, rolling off from his car number spot in 24th. Nick Curling, Doug Mullins on row number 13. Cody Spiker and Jeff Yenish make up the row right behind them. Jonathan Holstein, Gary Reynolds Jr. round out your top 30 there, Greg.
Dual winner Clarence Bonner going to roll off 31st position, with Grant Brown who is outside blue number 00. Jeremy Banning and Michael Larch 33rd, 34th. Mark Myers, Joshua Biddle, Adam Hoagland, AJ Digby, who called the duels with you last week, Peter, and then John Broussard and Will Worsler rounding out this field. Peter, we're coming to green. It's time to go.
It is time to go. We'll see that Chevy Silverado pace truck head down pit road. The race now in the hands of Thomas J. George, and the green flag is going to wave on the 2021 Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series in the Homenet Hosting 250. And already the 88 of George gets out to an early lead here at Daytona.
George trying to make it work on the inside. That seems to be the preferred line going into the corner with these Gen 6 cars. He's got help in the back from Tyler Seville as they both are able to clear Evan Black going off into turn 1 and 2. Down the back stretch now. Adam Jersky trying to get up there with Tyler Seville. The field begins to stack up a little bit behind him as the 39 of Pete Baskins was a little bit off the pace there as he had to check up. He had some teammates behind him, Mahan and Harnish, but everything gets settled out. Way up the track is 39 of Baskins, and it looks like the inside lane is where you want to be right now. Top 4 broken away from Black.
Single file for the front 4, and then you got the side-by-side action between Tim Knott and Evan Black. Black now starting to get a little bit of a run on the high side. Adam Jersky in the Beef Jersky's Cheesecakes machine. He's going to jump to the high side in a Chevrolet this year. He's going to get a little bit of help from Evan Black right now. Once again, side-by-side, almost for the race lead. They were very close there going off into turn number 1, but for now, George still holds on to the race lead. He's got Tyler Seville in the number 11 right behind him, one of the Will Worcester racing machines. You have to go to the far back portion of the racetrack to find his teammates, because that's where you'd find AJ Digby, Will Worcester, and Richard Fletcher. But Tyler Seville moonlighting it up at the front, away from his teammates, trying to give George a push right here.
Trying to keep it going. Remember, Tyler Seville was so strong at the end of the season in 2020 last year, picking up wins, not just in the Hacksaw PC series, but in the Throwback series as well. One of the hottest drivers in the second half, looking to start off 2021 with a win here in the Homenet Hosting 250 as they roar down through 1 and 2, trying to get going here down the backstretch. Drivers already making progress. John Eckhart up to 9th already, as Larry Orn has climbed from 15th to 11th, watching a couple of different drivers making their way up through the field. Defending champion Greg Evans +2 now. He's in the 15th spot. You're looking at the guy who finished runner up to him right now, on board with Adam Jersky, looking back at Evan Black.
Yeah, I gotta say, good job by Jersky there to jump to the high side, get a little bit of clean air on the nose, and I'm sure that's one thing we're going to be talking about here tonight, is getting clean air on the nose of these race cars, because if you're tucked up like the number 92 of Evan Black, you can actually overheat. You don't get enough air in the radiator to cool the car, which causes that overheating, and so you just gotta lay off the car in front of you in the middle of the corners. Of course, you don't really want to bump into corners. That's the spot where the race car is the lightest for one of these drivers, and so sometimes a little bit of a bump draft can go wrong, and of course cause the big one. And we didn't see any big ones until right at the very end of the last duel last week. We were green flagged for all 80 laps in those 240 laps duels. Hopefully we get to see a lot of green flag running here tonight. As Tyler Seville in the number 11 machine, he cleared Adam Jersky. He's going to jump up to the top side, and Tyler Seville's going to take the race lead. He was able to get across the start finish line first. Now what's he going to do? Is he going to jump back down in front of the 88 of George, or will he stay with Adam Jersky?
Lone Wolf for Will Worcester Racing taking the lead right now. Tyler Seville, the rest of them all outside the top 30 right now, as Seville on board. You're looking back at the pole sitter, Thomas George, getting the snap-on logo right up Seville's tailpipe there as they roar down the backstretch. Tim Knott is right up there as well, behind the 88 of George, as Jersky takes a peek to the outside with Evan Black right behind him. Seville continues to lead the way. Peter, here's a question though. Is this by design, or was it just the product of how Seville was able to qualify up in the top 5? They said, you know what, you go ahead and go for it. The rest of us, being Doug Mullins, Richard Fletcher, Will Worcester, and AJ Digby, they're all hanging out in the back. Is this by design for them to hang back, while Seville, who qualified 3rd out of 40 plus cars, while he goes up and tries to run up front?
Well, you and I know, Greg, there's 2 ways to avoid the big one. You're either in front of it or you're behind it enough that you can get stopped on the brakes. I think that's the 2 different strategies the Will Worcester drivers are doing right now, and I can't blame them. Sometimes you do want to split strategies here at Daytona if you want to get your team to victory lane. Seville, he wants to be in front of the big wreck. Meanwhile, like you said, it is probably by design. Will Worcester didn't even put in a qualifying lap time in the number 29 machine. He's got AJ Digby and Doug Mullins right in front of him. So they're just waiting to see how things go, because in the middle of the pack, 2 by 2 by 2.
Field still trying to make it out. Double file through most of the field right now, except for Tyler Seville leading the way. 3 cars on the outside right now, led by Jersky. Then you've got Black and Yenish. And remember, we talked about it a little bit in the pre-race. Jeff Yenish and his brother Steve both having fantastic runs in that Car Tomorrow race that we did at Homestead. Non-points race just for fun. We had a spectacular race there, a lot of fun, and the Yenishes, they said, you know what, hey, we want to come out and try to race with these guys every single Wednesday night on 3Y TV. They made the series, got their preliminary series license, and here's Jeff Yenish up in the top 10 here this season opener. Steve, he qualified 28th. He's already plus 10 positions. He's up to 8th. The biggest mover of the race right now appears to be the 13 of Gary Reynolds Jr. Started 30th up to 17th. Scratch that, Grant Brown went from 32nd to 13th. Grant Brown already up 19 positions in the double zero as Jersky to the lead on the outside.
Beef Jersky with a little bit of help from the number 92 of Evan Black, who's just been trying to push that number 69 to the front for the first 5 to 10 laps. Here as we work lap number 8, going to be lap number 9 as they flash across the start-finish line. And all these drivers here today is, Jersky going to cut down in front of the number 11, leaves Evan Black up there high and dry for right now. But all these drivers, Greg, getting the butterflies out of their stomach. They're getting their first few laps in of the season. It's a long one, as I mentioned, going all the way to November. And I'm sure, looks like the number 11 of Tyler Seville. Yeah, he's going to drop down. I think he has seen enough. There was almost contact up at the front of the field a couple laps ago, and Seville's just dropping down here onto the apron, letting the field on by. Now, you want to let the field on by really before you get to the corner, because that can happen. Seville, I don't think that was by design, but he ended up going back up there on the racetrack, and now he's going to really drop to the back of the pack. Good news for him is he does have his teammates back there, so they will be able to pick him up. We did get a quick look of one of the cars back there. Who was that? Was that Richard Fletcher? Richard Fletcher, who appears to have lost the lead draft. And something happened here. Something did happen here. He went off through the grass. There might have been a checkup there, possibly because of his teammate, the number 11 of Tyler Seville.
Yeah, the checkup there was coming down the backstretch. Seville, I think, was just dropping back to try to pick up his teammates. And unfortunately for him, being Fletcher, he was the big loser in that one at the end of it. Here you see him rewinding right there. There's the initial one. Yep, he just backs it off of turn number 2 and says, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and drop to the back. It's not the act of him dropping back, I think, is what caused it. I think it's when he came back up on the track and everyone kind of had to check up to make sure they didn't run in the back of him, I think is what ultimately led to Fletcher there. But meanwhile, Jersky in the 69 continues to lead. Thomas George second. How about Jason Stewart in the number 1? He has been close a few times in Hacksaw PC's Premier Series competition to getting a win. There he is, second in line on the outside. The driver's having fun with these new pictures here, new to 3Y TV this year. One of a couple new features on 3Y, but boy, Jason Stewart having some fun with that, but he's definitely having fun right now running up in the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. John Eckhart in the number 45 machine now getting a push from the number 92 of Evan Black. That seems like Evan Black's spot is trying to push someone to the race lead. It isn't really ever Black leading the outside line and now trying to push Eckhart to the line. Last time by, Thomas George led by 8 1/1000ths of a second at the stripe. That just goes to show you how close it is up the front. 69 machine might have got a little bit loose there coming out of turn number 2. That was surprising. In fact, one thing I noticed, Greg, from when we saw Richard Fletcher have his issue, it seems like these cars are a little bit on edge here tonight. They seem like they're driving a little bit looser. They don't have as much downforce as they usually have here at Daytona. They're looking pretty slippery out there, and we're only working lap number 12.
Which is kind of surprising looking at the track temperature right now. It's an ambient temperature of 68 degrees, which is translating to an 84-degree track temp. And it is that's kind of low for a race compared to some of the other stuff we've seen here in the past as you see the field working their way through here, trying to make progress, working in lap number 13. By the way, Peter, Clarence Bonner, who started 31st, he has worked his way up now. He's knocking on the door of the top 5. As one car having connection issues right at the front of the pack, second in line on the outside, having connection issues for just a moment. I believe it was the 10 of Curling, so this could get pretty hairy here if that continues.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely going to be interesting. It's gotta say, that number 99 of Clarence Bonner has an awesome paint scheme. It has Hacksaw PCs on that car, that retro look on the number 99. You see it right there. And folks, I am sporting a brand new Hacksaw PC, recently purchased, and I gotta say, what a fantastic experience it is buying from Hacksaw PCs and being involved in the buying processes. Now we see that number 88, Thomas George, drop down there below the apron, much like what we saw out of the number 11. I think he's starting to realize things are getting a little bit dicey up there at the front, maybe a little bit too dicey for his liking. As, oh man, speaking of dicey, jumps up there on the racetrack and almost loses control of the 88. That would be terrible for the Midwest Simulations Pole Award winner here earlier on, but able to corral it. We stay green flag. Might have brought a little bit of dust up onto the racetrack as well, but going back to my point, Hacksaw PCs, man, I cannot say enough about Hacksaw PCs and the whole ordeal that went down when buying it. Nick over at Hacksaw PC was able to find me something that is currently pure gold in the computer market, was able to find me a CPU that you just cannot buy right now, and he was able to get it at a fantastic price. Fantastic customer service, I gotta say. So make sure you check out our friends over at Hacksaw PC, because I am absolutely loving my computer right now. It is really set me up for this entire season, as well as all my iRacing escapades here throughout the rest of the season and for many years to come. It's a little bit future-proof. If you want to future-proof your PC, make sure you go check them out. Meanwhile, up at the front, now Evan Black. I've been mentioning that he'd been pushing a lots of cars here, Greg. Finally, Evan Black up at the point.
Peter, I don't know if you noticed what happened when the 88 of George fell to the back. He was second in line on the inside, and when he dropped to the back, the 45 of Eckhart lost the draft with him, and he had to fall back to pick up Jersky. That was what allowed Black and Curling to get by him. They were both able to drop down in front of Eckhart, who was still falling back to pick up Jersky, which is what led now to Bonner leading the charge on the outside with help from the 94 Corey Silva. So that was kind of interesting how George was second in line, much like we saw at Tyler Seville, just backing down there on the backstretch. But watching Eckhart, how much he slowed down when he lost that draft and how much he had to give up, because remember, he was leading this race when that happened. Now he has just fallen out of the top 5 as Jimmy McKee has gotten his nose up in front of him. On board right now with the 94 of Corey Silva, looking at the back of Clarence Bonner, who has a nose in front of Black right now into turn number 3. Good to have Corey Silva back in the series as well after taking the year off last year. Saw him a couple of times in the throwback series, but man, Corey Silva definitely going to be a guy to keep an eye on this entire season as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very fast 2 seasons ago, and like you said, great to have him back here in the American Sim Racing Series, Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series here, as we have gotten to lap number 18. Laps clicking by very quickly. Richard Fletcher in the number 43 machine is continuing to bleed time. He's the only driver right now to have lost the lead train. 39 cars in that lead pack here as we close in on the 50-mile mark here at Daytona. Now you see a couple of the cars a little bit further back in the pack. In fact, one of those drivers back there, the number 9 machine of Adam Hogland, Adam actually has a little bit of rear end damage. You can kind of see it right there. That back bumper just caved in just a little bit. The Mod Chaser Media Chevrolet, there he is coming out of turn number 4. Watch as he flashes by here, Greg. Just a little bit of rear end damage. I believe that is from the very start of the race when there was a little bit of an accordion at the very back of the pack. You can see it just right there as he's got the number 30 of Jeremy Banning right tucked up behind him. But hopefully that's not hurting his speed. Hopefully he's just laying back by design here, trying to let all things settle out up front.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Peter, is would that be affecting the number 9 car? And is that the reason that he's hanging back right there? So kind of answered the question before I even got a chance to ask it there. Corey Silva is taking the lead now in the number 94 as the outside lane really seems to be where you want to be to pass, but if you're just running around trying to click laps away, you want to be on the inside. Now Bonner's going to go pick up Jimmy McKee, who remember made it to the championship 4 last year in his McKee Lawn Care Chevy, trying to get a push now on Bonner to try to get themselves back up front. Silva leading the way now with Black in second. Side by side for that second spot. Black able to get back clear of Bonner, the dual winner, but here comes McKee trying to give a push now to Bonner, but look at Curling able to get a nice run down with some help from Eckhart. He's going to get right up on the bumper of Black, who in turn is giving a big push to Corey Silva. Things really beginning to settle down, but not settle down, if you will, up at the front. Drivers behaving themselves as now Black's going to go to the outside to try to pick up Bonner. here as they come through the tri-oval, crossing the line. Black's going to lead the lap just barely, 19 1/1000ths of a second, Evan Black. And you mentioned earlier with Black, as he's spending more time being the pusher, kind of giving off like Trevor Bayne vibes from his win in 2011, when he spent a majority of the race being the pusher, and then things happened late in the race, and he found himself not just in the lead at the end, but he wound up finding himself in victory lane.
Yeah, that is for sure. I mean, the one thing about being a pusher is that you do make friends being the pusher, right? You can push them to a good spot, you get them to the lead, and people do realize that. People do understand who ended up pushing them as, man, that was a move and a half by, I believe, Nick Curling in that green and white machine to jump up to the race lead. He has gained 24 positions from the start of the race. The only other driver to gain more positions is Clarence Bonner in the number 99 right now, who sits inside the top 5. He started way back in the field, down in 31st position, but there's still a long way to go, as now we've got 50 plus miles in the books. Drivers continuing to ride, except for right up there at the front of the field here, Greg. We got about the front 12 to 13 cars really racing it up, and then behind them a lot of single file, at least until you get back to the 72 of Michael Krobach, and some of the Will Worsler racing machines started to make some noise. Tyler Seville, Doug Mullins, Will Worsler, and AJ Digby all lined up together on the high line, as we have a little bit of a replay here on 3Y TV.
I think this may be of the move that Nick Curlin put on a moment ago. We'll see. Nope, not what I thought it was. Taking a look. Ooh, one car getting down below the apron there. Was that Grant Brown? Yeah, Grant Brown in the 00. Remember, Brown started outside the top 30 as well. He had worked his way up into the top 10 at one point, now kind of hanging out in the 18th position. We're back live here with the 92 of Silva leading the way, with Curling leading the way on the outside. Remember, Peter, Nick Curling picked up that big win at the road course last week in New Hampshire, or not New Hampshire, at Infineon. We didn't see him again for the rest of the season. I think we may have seen him one other time on 3Y TV after that win at Infineon, Sears Point, Sonoma, whichever you want to call it. But last year, picked up that win. Didn't see him again for pretty much the rest of the season. Good to have him back in the field as well, and running strong as well. He dominated that race at Sonoma. Here he is up in the top 5 again as we're closing in. We're about 1.5 laps away from the 1/4 mark of this race.
Yeah, and of course, as we click closer to the 1/4 mark, we have to start talking about possible pit stops here tonight, Greg. We saw in the duels last week that some drivers were able to make it all 40 laps in the duel without having to come down pit road. Other drivers, however, they were short of the 40 lap mark. So I would expect to see these drivers, since there's no real benefit to saving, fuel to get to lap number 40, I expect most of these drivers to come down around lap number 35 to 37, somewhere in that window. And that's not all too far off now. That's only in about 10 laps from now when I expect to see that pit window open. And from what we saw at the duel, these are very capable race car drivers getting onto pit road. You don't often see the caliber of drivers that we have here in the American Sim Racing Series in iRacing. These drivers know how to get off and on pit road because they practice it because they know it can make or break the race, Greg.
Hearing that, not only that, there's a new bonus on the line here for the American Sim Racing Series. There is a bonus point in the point standings for running the fastest lap of the race. And remember, here at Daytona, the fastest lap is usually done with a draft at the tail end of the draft line. So kind of curious to see how that's going to work out. The fastest lap of the race gets 1 bonus point. And remember, you have to pretty much be at the tail end of the draft to be able to do that. So I'm curious how that's going to come into a matter so far here in this one.
Yeah, and who has the fastest lap of the race so far? Well, that would be Jonathan Holstein with a 45.076. Alan Young, Woody Mahan, Thomas J. George, and Pete Baskins are the top 5 fastest cars on the racetrack, or at least they have been the top 5 fastest cars on the racetrack. But that is continuing to update, because I believe that Adam Hogland right now, 44.377 in that number 9 machine, now the fastest out there on the racetrack and the best lap. So he would be picking up bonus points for that lap time. And like you said, Greg, he's actually at the tail end of the draft pack where he's been for the first portion of this race. Probably got a great lap in, kept his foot in it, and was able to, so far, have that fastest lap.
Yeah, we've seen that with these cars. Only one car, one lap down is Richard Fletcher in the 43 trying to make their way past him right now. That's Fletcher on the outside, one of the Warsaw Racing entries. Remember, he was the one that lost the draft in that checkup about 15 laps ago or so, and now we're seeing it. He has gone a lap down. But the good news is, Lucky Dog is in effect here if we catch a caution. But Peter, we were talking about pit stops there for a moment and how we can expect them here in about 7 laps or so. Here's something else to keep in mind. Tire limits in the ASRS Hacksaw PC Premier Series. These drivers have 3 sets of tires waiting for them on pit road, plus the set of tires that they started the race on. So 4 sets of tires total. What does that come into mind here with the drivers setting up? They know that if they do that, they can go pretty much 35, like you said. They can go a little bit longer than that on tires if they have to for that second run. They would have about 30 laps to go when they make that second pit stop with another full set of tires still on there. So do you think drivers would be thinking maybe set up for green-white-checkered situations with that extra set of tires on pit road, or are they still not even worrying about that just yet?
You know, I was actually just wondering about that a couple laps ago, because we have seen a couple of drivers like Grant Brown, like the number 43 of Richard Fletcher, have moments out there with these tires and looking like the race car might be a little bit loose. I actually saw the number 72 of Michael Krobach actually spin coming out of turn number 4 in practice when he was up on the high side up near the walls. So these cars do appear to be on edge here tonight. Will tires matter? Well, they usually don't at these super speedways. Usually you can just take 2 tires, but with the track temperature that is at and with how slippery it looks out there, we might see more drivers take more tires, especially under these green flag pit stops, than we typically do.
So that's the thing. Is this going to turn into a tire race? We'll see. I'm really surprised, Peter, especially with the temperature being as cool as it is compared to what we normally see. I'm very surprised to see the track is this slippery right now. Wondering if that's an issue with the setup. Like, is it just the way these cars are set up? Remember, it's a fixed setup here in the Hacksaw PC series. So, with that said, is that what's playing a role in the cars being very loose, or is it more just a matter of the way the cars are drafting right now? There's a whole bunch of different options that it could be, and unfortunately, we're not really going to know the answer until we get to talk to some of these guys at some point. John Eckhart up at the front right now, as you saw the Will Worsler stable trying to make their way back up through the field. Seville and Mullins trying to crack the top 20 right now. Seville has Mullins sitting 21st right now. On board with Eckhart right now, leading the way, looking back at Nick Curling and that number 10. Started 13th, talking about Eckhart, the race leader. Curling started outside the top 20, as did Corey Silva. In fact, the only driver in the top 5 right now, Peter, who started in the top 10 is 4th place Evan Black, who started outside front row.
Yeah, and gosh, I'm looking here as these cars go by off into turn number 1, Greg. We are almost 2 by 2, all the way back from about the 8th position, all the way back into the 30s right now. This field, they know pit stops are coming, Greg. They're starting to get a little bit more racy. They're going to try and condense the field so when they finally do dip onto pit road, they're not going to be losing a ton of time. Now, one strategy, though, Greg, is to kind of split when you go down pit road. You don't want to go down pit road with 39 other cars. In fact, all 40 cars are in the lead train right now, with Richard Fletcher being 1 lap down, the only car 1 lap down. You know, you don't want to come down with all 39 other cars. You just don't, because that will often result in some headache, whether it's damage on your car, someone spinning, or just the heartache of really scattering around and trying to find where you're going to get onto pit road. It just maximizes the possibility of an issue. So I'm sure we'll see some drivers start to peel off, knowing that really they're in their window from this point on making it on just 2 stops. That's what we expect to see here tonight if there are no caution flags, just 2 pit stops. And really, these could both be money stops when you think about it.
And here's something interesting that I just now noticed, Peter, as we get ready for pit stops. Look on the outside line, 4th and 5th in line. Look who's found each other right there. The 89 and the 23, the Yanish brothers, Jeff and Steve Yanish. They have finally gotten hooked up here just before the first round of pit stops. Jeff started in 4th. Steve started well deep in the field, 28th position. You're on board with Steve right now. He has worked his way up to 11th on the pylon, but that is his brother right there in front of him. Right before pit stops, the Yanishes are able to find each other, and no doubt they're not going to let each other out of their sight for the rest of the race if they have control of that matter. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. You mentioned, when do you come down? Who do you come down with? Are you trying to make deals with other teams? You know you're going to pit with your teammates. The teammates are all going to come down on the same lap. But are you trying to make deals with other teams to try to get yourself as big a pack as possible towards these pit stops, which, by the way, we can expect just about any lap now, working lap 35?
I don't think so, because really you just want to come down with a solid number of people. You don't want to come down with all 39, but if you come down with about 4 or 5 other people, that is sufficient, in my opinion. So then you can get everyone locked up. As long as you leave pit road altogether, you can all get locked up and get up to speed quite nicely, and also kind of prevents you from losing any additional time trying to get spaced out coming to pit road. So we'll have to see, because that pit window, it is open, folks. And I'm surprised we don't have any takers right now through the back of the field. I'm not seeing anyone coming down pit road, but I am starting to see, like you mentioned there, Greg, the Yenishes, Steve and Jeff Yenish, the number 89 leading the number 23. And I gotta say, those Tampa SUV Rentals.com Toyotas do look pretty darn good. And folks, it's gonna be a little bit difficult for us to sort them out here, which one's which, who's who for the first couple of races. But as of right now, Jeff is leading that 2-car Yenish train up there on the high side.
Peter. Drivers have their hands out the window. Troy Haight indicating he's coming down. Tim Knott has indicated he's coming down. We're going to see pit stops this time.
So who is going to come down with them? That is the question. We got a bunch of takers with them. Larry Orn, the number 1 machine of Jason Stewart, coming down pit road. We also got Clarence Bonner, last week's race winner, Troy Hay, Nick Curling, a bunch of different drivers, John Eckhart coming down pit road. So a good portion of the field here coming down pit road on lap number 36.
Yeah, right as we expected. You said we were going to expect them around lap 35 to 37. Beginning lap number 37 now, as we already have cars coming off. Did Nick Curling miss his pit stall, Peter? He's off and on real quick. I think Nick Curling missed his pit stall. That's going to be a disaster for the 10 car.
Yeah, he definitely did not take any type of pit service, so that will be killer. Meanwhile, the car is just coming off pit road, trying to get back up to speed, who did take service. We did see the number 1 of Jason Stewart. I think he missed his pit stall and had to go back into reverse. But here was the hard charge onto pit road. Meanwhile, currently right now on the racetrack, we have another hard charge to pit road, as Adam Jersky going to lead down a bunch of cars, everyone getting into their pit box nice and neatly right here on the front stretch as we watch that replay. But we're going to have looks like one more group of people coming onto pit road. Will Warser, the number 29 machine, what happened to him? He might have had the same issue that we saw out of not Clarence Bonner, excuse me, that was Nick Curling, because that number 29 was very much on and off pit road very, very quickly. We'll have to keep an eye on Will Warsler. Not taking a pit stop in that number 29 machine. I'm not seeing a pit time for the number 29. I'm not seeing a pit time for the number 3 of Michael Larch either. Both of those drivers must have missed their pit stall. So already a couple of these drivers shooting themselves in the foot here early at Daytona.
And Peter, let's go back and pick up this most recent group that came down pit road, led by Steve Yanish. But I want to pick up the 16 of Nick Gardner, the car with a lot of college racing vibes on. Let's go back and watch what happened coming on the pit road here for them. That car right there. Let's go back on the 3Y TV replay and see what happened coming down pit road, because this was astonishing to get himself in front of Steve Yanish. Here they come. Well, all right, we're backing up, but watch what the 16 car does coming on to pit road. Remember, the 23 of Yanish is in front right here. Now watch what the 16 does. They call out they're coming down on board with the 16 of Gardner. He stays in the gas just long enough to get himself in front of the 23, so he's got the spot when he comes out of pit road. Oh my goodness, he came up the track right in the middle of the oncoming pack. That's going to cost him that track position. And wow.
Folks, we're not called 4-wide TV, but that was 4 wide on the backstretch going off into turn number 3. We'll see if we can dial up a replay of that. There you see him going 4 wide. Looks like Yenish down there on the inside groove, but this was a hard charging group. And you can see that being Gardner came up on the racetrack, and the other cars just had to split him, leave him up the middle. That was almost a big moment as they went off into turn number 3. But meanwhile, right now live, Clarence Bonner in the number 99 machine, as the field has broken up just a little bit. But Clarence Bonner right now in the lead of the race. Corey Silva tucked up right behind him, and Evan Black there still inside the top 3 with John Eckhart right below him in the Kirkwood Transportation machine. Also got simsnap.com, iRacing photography on the hood of that number 45. Whoa. Yeah, John Eckhart, what a moment. We're 3 wide. Adam Jursky down there below the apron. You do not want to be down there. It's very slick down there. But that was almost a big moment, possibly a little bit of net code between the number 92 and the number 45 there of Eckhart.
Whew, that was a little hairy there. Let's take a look at the 3-wide TV replay of that. Boy, the 3-wide TV replay button getting a workout right now. Let's take a look. Here it is coming off of turn number 4. Watch those 2 white cars right there. Almost some contact. Whoop, 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 whoop. He hangs on to it. 5 wide coming down the front stretch of Daytona, and we all get through. We all stay green, and I don't think we have any damage whatsoever. Fantastic job by those guys.
Well, I don't think you're going to see that all too often. The car almost completely sideways right here at Daytona. Now, we do want to update you on a couple of the drivers who all missed their pit box. Michael Larch, Nick Curling, and Will Warser. They're all teamed up together out there on the racetrack, running 37th through 39th. They're trying to run down Doug Mullins and Mark Myers. Both of those drivers must have had an issue as well, because they're all locked up together right there. But then in front of them, we still have about 34 cars within a half straightaway of the race lead. So definitely those pit stops broke things up just a little bit. But we stay green here at Daytona.
Still green. Fantastic driving by our drivers to keep it going here. We're about 7 laps from halfway now. Peter, working lap number 43. Remember, we had a very clean race back here in the summer here at Daytona when the series came here for the regular season finale. It was won by Brandon Stokes, but remember, that race went relatively clean till the end, and then that race wound up with pretty much every single driver in the field getting collected in one accident at the end. So hopefully that's not a bad omen for the rest of this one. As look on the outside, Brian Yazik trying to get out in front. The All-Star Race winner from the Nashville Fairgrounds trying to poke his nose up in front. He's got his teammate Woody Mahan lined up behind him, on board with Yazik. 1 points-getting win on the season last year, a very strong playoffs, and an all-star race win. He's going to lead this lap at Daytona. He knows a thing or two about winning at Daytona also. Remember, the Throwback Series that we broadcast on 3-Wide TV last year, their visit to Daytona, it was Yazik that got the win there. So Yazik knows a thing or two about Daytona as well. He's locked in the drag race with Bonner for the lead.
Yeah, definitely. Yazik was one of those drivers who really seemed to hit a stride right there towards the end of the 2020 Hacksaw PC season. And great to see him right now leading with the HPPsimulation.com. Ford Mustang always has HPPsimulation.com on that race car. Same thing with his teammate, the number 72 machine of Michael Krobach. But what's going on with that number 72 machine right now, Michael Krobach? He's running down there in 21st position, and usually you see Yazik and Krobach nose to tail in the Loud Pedal Motorsports machine, but currently down in 21st is Michael Krobach, kind of at the end of this train of cars right now, running right behind Tyler Seville in the number 11 machine. At least that's how it was the last time by. And Seville, remember, he started up there near the front as we ride on board with Woody Mahan, according to that graphic right down there, South Bend, Indiana. As you see, a couple of these new graphics here this season on 3-Wide TV. Hopefully everyone in the chat is enjoying them. And Greg, you know, it's funny. You mentioned that race that we had here to end out the regular season last year. Well, the one driver that jumped into my head in that race was John Jenkins, and he's in the chat here tonight. And folks, if you're in the chat, make sure you make yourself heard. I know if Corey Silva's in the chat, he's out there on the racetrack right now, but he probably punch in "I am heard." So do what Corey Silva does and say "I am heard" in the chat here.
We are 3 wide for the lead on 3 wide TV. Sorry, Peter, but Terrence Bonner's in what we call the sucker hole now, as he's going to fall back to 5th. It's side by side between Silva and Yazik. Silva's going to get the lead. Bonner, though, trying to bring that middle lane back up as they seem to have the preferred groove through 3 and 4. Here we go again.
Yeah, boy, it might be a little bit early to go 3 wide here, but these drivers definitely showing us how it's done. They sort things out. We're now back 2 by 2. A couple drivers in the back actually went back there and they checked up. They saw what was happening and said, I don't want to be a part of that 3 wide if they get together. And they actually backed things up. But now we're back to 2 wide as Corey Silva, the number 94, Curling Design Labs on the hood of that number 94, is your race leader over John Eckhart and Steve Yenish in 3rd. Those are 3 drivers who were not in the Premier Cup Series last season.
And I'm so impressed with the Yenish brothers, what they've been able to do here in their debut, trying to make their way up, especially Steve Yenish in the 23. He qualified 28th. Here he is, 3rd in line in the bottom, right there in that 23 car, trying to make moves up in the top 5 right now. He led a lap in that cycle of pit stops as well. So Steve Yenish, very successful debut. Jeff has been very strong. One thing I noticed and was kind of surprised about, Peter, they did not pit together. Jeff came down pit road with the 2nd group. Steve stayed out to lead a lap and came down with the 3rd group. I thought for sure we were going to see the Yenish brothers come down at the same time, especially at the fact that they had just managed to hook up on the racetrack not even 5 laps before the pit stop cycle began. And it seems to have separated them out now as Jeff is sitting back in 13th position while Steve is up 3rd in line on the bottom.
Yeah, but they're not too far apart from one another. I'm sure they will find each other's back bumpers before this race is all said and done. And speaking of this race being all said and done, folks, we are closing in on the halfway mark. I know you mentioned it just a couple of moments ago, Greg, but no cautions here in the first portion of this race. Hopefully we can see out the first half of the race with solely green flag running as this lead pack continues to race very hard. But one thing I did notice was after that, those pit stops, Greg, was a definite break in the field between Michael Krobot running in 21st and Adam Hogland, who's currently in 22nd. Right now, the difference between those 2 groups is about 3.2 seconds, and it doesn't seem like that 2nd group is closing in on the front pack at all. So we'll see once again if we can get to green flag pit stops, how that those next set of green flag pit stops changes that or doesn't change that. Maybe it will break up the field even more, but at least as of right now, 21 cars are together in the lead pack. And one of those drivers who's not in the lead group, well, that would be your Midwest Simulations Pole Award winner, Thomas J. George here in the number 88 is running down there around the 23rd position as of right now. But meanwhile, up at the front of the field, we continue to go side by side. And Greg, unbelievably impressed with this side-by-side action we've seen here today. And this is a big one. This is who's going to lead the halfway mark in the first race of the season.
Give it to Evan Black in the 92. The outside pole sitter leads the lap. But Peter, going back to what we were talking about there with that 2nd group not really being able to close in, I think that's about to change because while that was going on, they were all slicing and dicing. Jason Stewart and Thomas George were trying to get their way up to the front on the outside. That has since settled down. Now that 2nd group is single file in line behind this giant group of cars right here. So now they are single file back there. I think we are going to be able to start seeing them begin to close it in, especially with these guys up here getting slicey and dicey, because now that group that's in a straight line, they're going to be able to just focus on putting their head down and gaining ground on them. I think now you're going to start seeing that 2nd group close in.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on the lap times of the front group relative to that 2nd pack, like you mentioned there, Greg, led currently by the number 1 of Jason Stewart, who, if you haven't watched a lot of us on 3 Wide TV and you haven't watched a lot of the American Sim Racing Series, Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, keep an eye out for the number 1 of Jason Stewart. He has a tendency to do things that other drivers do not do with their tires, especially when we get to those races, Greg, where there's a lot of tire strategies involved there. We might not see that here tonight at Daytona per se, but when we get to those races where tires are in question and drivers are starting to run out of tire sets because of the tire limits, keep your eye on that number 1 machine. He's a gambler.
There's always one, Peter. I've learned that calling sim racing, not just here on 3Y but other channels as well. Various different series, various different types of cars. There's always one who likes to roll the dice and try different things. And for this series, the Hacksaw PC series, it no doubt is Jason Stewart. Think back to last year at Charlotte, the 200-lap, 300-miler, the longest race of the season. He rolled the dice on pit road. He was on a radical different strategy than the rest of the field. I mean, you talked about, being off by, 5, 6, even up to 10 laps. Jason Stewart was off sequence with the entire rest of the field by 25 to 30 laps at times in that race. It paid off with the top 5 finish. He didn't get a win in the Cup Series, but he got a win at Darlington in the Throwback Series, doing that same thing, trying different stuff. Wins in the Truck Series and the Grand National Series, which we don't stream on 3Y, but he did well in that as well, rolling the dice. There's always one guy who's not afraid to take a risk, and for this series, it's definitely Jason Stewart. As you check back in with the battle for the lead, Corey Silva and Evan Black continue to trade the lead. Look at that run the outside line gets as Clarence Bonner gets right up on the back bumper of Evan Black, and in turn, Brian Yazzie gets right up on the back bumper of Bonner, and that pushes that top line to the nose once again. Evan Black gets the lead. Clarence Bonner, though, now trying in on the outside, and Woody Mahan closing in as well, trying to join that outside groove.
Man, I like those double numbered cars, the 99 and the 55, as Clarence Bonner hits the stripe first. It looked like the number 92 of Evan Black dropped down to the inside to kind of cover, but the 55 of Yaza gave a huge shot to the number 99 of Bonner as they went off into turn number 3, and they were able to just sneak ahead last time by at the start-finish line. So things continuing to yo-yo and seesaw here at Daytona up at the front of the field as we continue to be 2x2 for now, about the first 10 or 11 cars or so. Woody Mahan, like you mentioned there, running the third car in line on the high side. A little bit of a different look on that number 84, but still very recognizable from what we saw last year right here on 3Y. Gotta say, always am a sucker for that purple number 84 Mahan Speed Laboratories Ford Mustang as it works its way through the tri-oval. Actually somewhat similar to what Evan Black is running in that white, black, and purple machine. So we've got a couple of purple cars, pinky purple cars up there inside the top 6. That always good on the eyes. And gotta say, I'm really enjoying a couple of these new paint schemes this season. And we're only one race in, Greg. I know we'll see different paint schemes throughout the year and different names on the hood and all that stuff. But really cool to see a couple of these race cars here tonight.
We have a couple of times through the year we get to choose our favorite paint schemes for that particular race. And I know tonight's not one of them, but I got to say, speaking of those new paint schemes, I think right now my favorite, I'm leaning towards that second car in line on the outside, the 99, the Hot Wheels vibes on that number 99 Toyota of Clarence Bonner. Right now, I'm thinking that's the sharpest one of the field so far. Remember, that car was in victory lane last week. Look at the Hacksaw PC logo in the Hot Wheels text. That is a gorgeous race car, and it was in victory lane last week on 3Y. I, of course, wasn't able to make that one, but it was Clarence Bonner getting the win in his duel, so that paint scheme was 1 for 1 on the season. Can you get up and make it 2 for 2 in the biggest race of the year, the season opener?
He very well could. Definitely one of the better drivers on super speedways here in the American Sim Racing Series. Now, speaking of last week, we had AJ Digby alongside me, the Twitter-verified number 14 machine of Digby, currently running back there in the 23rd position, right behind Thomas J. George, who continues to lead the second pack. It seems like Thomas J. George or the number 1 machine of Jason Stewart or the number 9 of Adam Hoglund, they keep kind of changing position right now in those race cars right there leading that second group. They're not making any inroads though on the front pack at all though, Greg, which definitely doesn't bode well for them as these laps continue to click away. We're almost down to the final 100 miles of the Homenet Hosting 250.
Now, they're actually losing ground from last update, Peter. Remember, when we talked about that about 5 laps ago, it was about 5 seconds back. Now they've gained a little bit of ground. It was over 7 seconds last time by. This time it's 6.8 from Thomas George, who's leading this pack up to the back bumper of Evan Black, the current race leader. So that lap they were able to click a little bit away, but still got a lot of work to do as Silva goes to work again on the outside. Eckhart, who had that amazing save about, 20 laps ago? Maybe a little bit more. He has worked his way back up now, second in line on the inside. Bonner taking a peek to the outside of Silva. And I'm loving the fact that these guys not only are racing for position the way they are, but they are doing it very respectfully. They're racing with a lot of respect, and that's something that this series prides itself on, is the drivers racing each other with respect, and it's really, really showing here in this race so far.
Yeah, and of course, for all of you Nick Curling, Michael Larch, and Will Worser fans in the chat, that three-car tandem is continuing to lose time to the race leader as well. So we could be looking at those three cars falling a lap down here in the next 15 to 20 laps. Meanwhile, back at the front of the field, Greg, we got to start thinking about pit road again here in about 10 or so laps from now, because pit window will open presumably, in about 3 laps.
Yeah, you have to think with the 35 laps here, it would probably be around, I'd say virtually 10 laps. And Kathy, that one was for you. On the outside is Clarence Bonner, about 10 laps away, I think, from the second batch of pit stops. John Eckhart leading the way. Bonner leading the group on the outside. But Peter, again, I'm going to think back here. The way this race has gone, we talked about maybe having that third set of tires on pit road in case of a buffer for green-white-checkered. You can realistically make it to the end after this pit stop with about 5 laps to the good if this race was to go green from there. But the drivers have to have that in the back of their mind, that if a late race caution does come out, they do have that extra set of tires on pit road. But here's my question. Say we get about halfway through that run. We get to lap 85 or so, and they come down. Is that too early to take tires, or do you think some guys would try and go fuel only on that situation if we were to come to that?
That is a great question. For a lot of these drivers who might have just taken 2 tires under that last stop, do you come down, take 2? Do you take 4? I think if you're going to win this race, I think you're going to have to take 2 if it doesn't go, if there are no cautions from here on out. Now, if there's a caution flag, that's going to change everything. That might sway things, but I think these cars are going to continue to get very slippery out there, and it's going to be drivers that have to wheel them, much like what we saw last year when we were in the retro series that American Sim Racing Series put together. Those 1987 cars that are a handful to drive. We might be seeing similar driving cars here as these tires continue to wear around the 2.5-mile high bank Daytona International Speedway. Just now under 100 miles to go. It has been an intense race, folks. If you're just now joining us, no cautions up to this point. Of course, that would be the commentator's curse, more than likely jinxing it. But up at the front of the field, we've seen many, many different leaders and multiple lead changes. It seems like every 3 or 4 laps we have a new race leader up at the front of the field. But for right now, it is John Eckhart continuing to lead, not for the first time tonight as well, in that really good-looking number 45 machine.
So many awesome paint schemes. And John Eckhart, I am so impressed with how he's been able to recover from that save on this same set of tires. I was worried about possibly a little bit of a flat spot on the tires of that number 45, but he has proven me wrong on that one, as here he is leading the way on the inside. Silva right behind him before you've got Bonner and Yazik lined up behind him, and then the purple cars lined up with Black and Mahan. 2 very, very similar looking cars, however, could not be further apart, as one of them is a Chevy and one of them is a blue Opel Ford. So definitely awesome to see. Very similar paint schemes, but those 2 cars could not be further apart.
Absolutely. Why don't we check in with the reigning Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series champion, the winner of not 1, not 2, not 5, not 10, but 12 races last season. There he is, Greg Evans, running at kind of the back end of this lead train of cars in the 16th position right now. All thing looks good for Greg Evans if he wants to mount a charge up to the front. And Greg, I know we heard a couple times last season from Greg Evans that he's not a big fan of these super speedway races, but he put together some really good runs. I'm thinking back to Talladega last season in that number 2 machine, where he said, you know what, I don't like the place. I don't really like running these super speedways, but here I am up in the top 3 once again. So keep an eye on him, folks, as these laps continue to wind down, because he is a champion, not only of the season, but a championship caliber driver every time he gets out onto the racetrack, no matter whether it's a super speedway, short track, road course, or whatever. Keep an eye on him here in the closing 40 laps or so. But up at the front, it has continued to be Eckhart leading the way over the number 94 of Corey Silva, who's doing a fantastic job in his return to the Premier Cup Series here in the Hacksaw PC's American Sim Racing Series Premier Series. Just working his way right down there on the yellow line. We're now about single file for about the first 8 or so cars. One of those drivers back there is the number 31 of Larry Orn. And Larry was having a little bit of connection issues at one point earlier on in the race. Glad to see that has sorted itself out. I was a little bit concerned for Larry that he'd have to drop to the tail end of the field due to those connection issues, but he's right up there inside the top 10. Got Brian Yazik to his outside of the number 55.
Single file now for most of it up front. A very large change of pace from what we saw. So I'm wondering now, Peter, if these guys are beginning to set themselves up for that run the pit road here. Now the top 6 are single file. Ooh, Tim Knott was trying to come up in front of Yazik there a little bit, and that's going to allow these top 5 to break away just a little bit as they go side by side behind him. Whoa, Tim Knott again getting up in the Brian Yazik. They fan out. Another great save there, but ooh, things are getting a little hairy up there between Yazik and Knott a couple of times there in that sequence.
Yeah, honestly, that looked to me like a little bit of net code possibly in the tri-oval between the 41 and the 55. Great job there by Jackson Van Valkenburg. Haven't talked about him so far here tonight. He's up there inside the top 10 as of right now in the 8th position. And things really starting to scatter up at the front of the field right there. As you see, I believe that is Steve Yenish right there in the number 23 trying to do it all by himself up there on the top line. That top group of Yazik and Mahan kind of broke up just a little bit. Now Tim Knott thinking to go into the high side, going through the tri-oval. It seems like Steve Yenish, though, going to drop back down to the inside, and we go single file now once again for about the first 6 or 7 cars. But they call Daytona a chess match at 200 miles an hour, and it definitely indicates that here tonight, because you just see these cars are jostling, and we mentioned it last week, that they kind of snake their way down the backstretch, Greg, because, you know, you see one car lead and kind of move, and then the car behind will react, and then the car behind that person will react, so on and so forth. They kind of lead to the snaking effect down the backstretch.
And it's something that's become more and more common with not just the play tracks, but in general, with this draft heavy package that this Cup car uses, these Gen 6 Cup cars. We're starting to see that more often at tracks like Atlanta and Texas, and it's really become prominent at Indianapolis as well with the way these cars are drafting. Remember though, this in real life, not sure how it's going to be on iRacing, but I know this is the last year of this car, this Gen 6 package. Remember, next year, 2022, is going to be the debut of the Gen 7 car in the big boys on Sunday. So with that said, Peter, this is going to change the entire complexion. This could be the last time we see this package at Daytona with these cars here for the season opener, I should say, as I believe we are coming back here in the summer. But again, this is something we've seen with the Gen 6 car, but we're not going to see that a whole lot more with the new car on the way.
That is true. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how that new package affects really all racetracks, not just super speedways. But tell you what, these drivers, they're putting on a show here tonight, folks. That second group of cars continues to lead time to the front train, unfortunately, still led by Thomas J. George, your pole sitter earlier tonight. Picked up that Midwest Simulations pole award, the first one of the season. He leads Cody Spiker, Jeremy Banning, Adam Hoagland, Richard Fletcher is in that group. He's one lap down. The only car still one lap down. AJ Digby, Jason Stewart, Danny Gutierrez, Alan Young, Michael Whiting, Gary Reynolds Jr., Jonathan Holstein, Joshua Biddle, all in that second train of cars. But they're not making inroads on the 21st place driver of Michael Krobach right now. You can see that time delta between George and Krobach right there, just growing a little bit larger. You can kind of see it a couple laps ago.
Pit stop's coming this time. Drivers are keying up. They're coming in this time. Here we go.
All right, so you see the field, especially the back half of the field, start to fan out just a little bit, I think, in preparation for those pit stops. And here they come down pit road. The Troy Haight at the back. Ooh, Tim Knott in the middle, the 99 of Bonner. Whoa, and we got, is that Will Worcester in the 29 coming down? He was about to fall a lap down. Clarence Bonner on pit road. Tim Knott, Corey Silva, Evan Black, and John Eckhart. But, Eckhart blew through his pit box. He had to throw it in reverse. He finally able to find his pit crew. Cody Spiker in the number 19, the second group of cars also making pit stops. Jeremy Banning in that group as well. Joshua Biddle, Adam Hogland. So a bunch of drivers coming down pit road. That just about is half the field making what might be their final pit stops if we continue to go caution free.
Yeah, we are good on fuel from here on. You can make it the rest of the way on fuel. We'll see if anyone else comes down. Kind of surprised. Only a couple of cars coming down this time, led by Nick Curling, who was also in trouble of going a lap down. That's going to put Pete Baskins to the lead. Only a couple of cars coming down pit road this time by. There you see the leaders making their way past the drivers coming off of pit road, and I think you're going to see the rest of them come down. Looks like all the Loud Pedal cars stayed out there, and the Yenish brothers still out there, Steve and Jeff. Remember, they're working with Loud Pedal Motorsports as well, and Steve's up there in the 4th position right now, 5th position, as Adam Drewski was able to get by. Rest of the field that's on pit road right now making their way off, but I think you're going to see this final batch of cars make their way onto pit road this time by. Here comes Loud Pedal and Company, and just about everyone but Steve Yenish staying out once again. Kind of surprised that Steve Yenish is staying out as long as he is.
Yeah, he's definitely staying out, but that's not terrible because he does have the number 3 machine of Michael Larch with him to help him draft. He's also got Troy Haight in the 28 machine to draft off of as well, and he might pick up one or two others. But Steve right here definitely picking up another lap led in the Tampa SUVRentals.com Toyota Camry, but I do expect to see him on pit road this time, although he's catching up to a little bit of lap traffic here, which might work against him. You see all of the other cars that were just on pit road just now peeling out of their pit box to get back up there onto the racetrack, including drivers like Woody Mahan, Thomas J. George, Jordan Harnish, and a couple of others. Someone there, I think that's the number, was that the number 70 machine, locked him up getting to pit road. That is Scott Eckrich in that AMSOIL Chevrolet Camaro. And it looks like Eckrich will go into his pit box nice and neatly. Got the DMLC Racing Channel on the back of that number 70 machine as well. But meanwhile, things cycling through right now. Corey Silva in the number 94 machine out there on the racetrack currently would be the first car off pit road if he can run down and catch the 23 of Steve Yenish, who right now is going off into turn number 1. Greg.
So this is the thing with this pack racing and the different pit strategies is a lot of times it takes them a while to cycle back through. Again, we're watching the 94 of Silva try to catch up to Yenish. Yenish is just now coming off of turn number 2. Scott Eckrich in that 70 car had to lock it up, is your official race leader at this time, but here comes the pack breathing down the necks of Yenish and Eckrich. Here they go. Bonner got around Silva. This is going to be for the race lead here coming up this next pass as they're trying to get around the 70 of Eckrich. They got out pretty far ahead of Steve Yenish. It looks like Eckrich might be able to make this work out.
Yeah, what a pit stop for the driver out of Illinois. Scott Eckrich right now is your race leader as we flash across the start-finish line. That must have been one heck of a pit entry. We saw him lock them all up. That was the money stop, if you will, but now he has a hard charging pack. They have a full head of steam. He's out there all by himself going 184. Meanwhile, the pack's going 193, over 10 miles an hour faster as they head out of turn number 2. And Eckrich really going to fall back here. But the good news is he is still in this lead train of cars. And speaking of that lead train of cars, it is about 17 cars because we do have Will Worsler in that group of cars who's currently 1 lap down. And by my calculations, Will Worsler would be your lucky dog if a caution flag was to come out right now. So he's hoping to see one of those caution flags that we haven't seen here tonight so far. But at the back of this lead train is the number 2, your reigning Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series champion, winner 12 times last season. Greg Evans still in with a shot at getting his 2021 tally underway, and also getting one closer to Jim Foose's all-time American Sim Racing Series win record. Will we see that record broken this year? I'm not sure, but Greg Evans definitely going to be chipping away at it all season long.
New computer for Greg Evans as he won the Hacksaw PC's championship last season. The prize was a custom PC. New wheel for Greg Evans, winning the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown last year. Again, a new sponsor for this Wheelman Showdown this year. We'll talk more about that as the season progresses. And a new milestone for him off the track as well. New father is Greg Evans in the number 2 as lap traffic comes into play up there at the front. So a big offseason for Greg Evans. Upgrades on the sim rig, upgrades in his life with his new daughter being born, and now trying to kick off his season in style. And here we are. We're coming up on 21 laps to go. I don't think we've seen the end of that 2-car just yet. I think he's going to really start to play up.
Sorry to interject. We're not only 3 wide up at the front. Oh, there we go.
Oh, Greg Brown.
Double zero machine. Did we
He
save it?
out. He blinked out right at the crucial point. Oh, wow. Connection issues on Grant Brown coming at the absolute perfect time to avoid a melee. Watch this on the replay. Grant Brown's going to break loose off of turn number 4 right there. And then, we're watching Seville there, I believe. But Grant Brown in the double zero, he blinked out at the perfect time to avoid getting hit. You could not ask for a better time for a connection issue right there.
Yeah, there was also contact a little bit further back in the pack as well between the number 3, I think, of Michael Larch and the 0-3 machine of, 0-4 of Mark Myers. There was definite contact between them going off into turn number 3. So, folks, if that's any indication, things are heating up here at Daytona, and that's also broken up our lead train of cars. It was about 16 to 17 cars. Now it's down to just about 12, as Pete Baskins is holding on for dear life as the 12th driver in that lead pack right now. Baskins, I think, is going to need a little bit of help to try and close into that lead train of 11.
Trying to really get going now is Baskins in that number 39. He does have a lap lead, but trying to get up to the front's going to be tough. John Eckhart, though, he has proven that he can get back up to the front. He is just taking the lead back from Clarence Bonner with help from Corey Silva. Look at Tim Knott up there in the top 5, having himself a great race. He still is looking for that first Hacksaw PC's Premier Series victory. Here he is, third in line on the bottom. Up in the top 5 right now, that's Doug Mullins in the number 18, another one of those new look Will Worsler cars for the season. He's going a lap down, but man, oh man, some different names that we're used to seeing up at the front here. We've got John Eckhart, we've got Tim Knott, Jeff Yenish there in the 89. How about Larry Orn in the 31? He's up there in the mix as well. Jackson Van Volkenberg back in the series after some time off. Evan Black as well. Different names that we didn't see a whole lot last year. Up at the front, we are seeing ourselves some new contenders up here at the front, and they're all trying to get one up on that man, Greg Evans in the 2-car, who won the championship in 12 races last year, including a couple of non-points races as well. He also won the ASRS All-American 400 last season. So Greg Evans was a big winner on many, many occasions last year.
And we are getting word that we might have had an accident. It might have included the number. Yeah, Cody Spiker there. Not sure if there was an accident or whether or not he blew that motor. We did mention at one point, Greg, that you can overheat your race car, and maybe that's what happened here to the number 19 machine of Cody Spiker. As you can see him down there off the racetrack. I think I'm getting word, yes, blown motor coming through the tri-oval. He was running in the 24th position at the time, running right behind
there
Gary Reynolds, and you see it kablamo, puff of smoke out the back of that number 19. Cody Spiker appears to be our first retirement here tonight in the Homenet Hosting 250, and it took 200 miles to get the first retirement of the American Sim Racing Series season.
That is an incredible stat if you really think about it. We made it 4/5 of the way through this race before we had our first retiree we still are green right now as we battle out, but things are getting really dicey up at the front. They are side by side, 5 rows deep before Steve Yanish in the 23, and Doug Mullins was a lap down, tagging on the rear right now. So if you're Steve Yanish right now, you're last in line in this group as far as lead lap goes. Looks like he's committed to the outside right now. Is that what you would do as a driver, Peter? Or would you try to hook up there on the bottom? If you're in Steve Yanish's position right now, we're on board with him, which line do you go with right now?
You know, I honestly think you go whatever line your brother's going to be in. How about that? I mean, we got Steve back there in 11th. We've got Jeff in 5th right now. Jeff is on the high side. I think that's probably where Steve is going to go. So I think we're going to wait and see for these lap times. Whoa, man, it got a little bit dicey there in the middle. Oh, man, connection issues out of the number 99 of Clarence Bonner. That's that puff of smoke that you saw right there. But there was a big checkup going off into turn number 3. Really, things starting to heat up here at Daytona, Greg. And, you know, Steve, I'm sure he's going to try and go with Jeff, but it might not be a bad idea to just kind of lay back just a little bit. Stay within that realm where you know that you can check up as the 99 of Bonner. Once again, connection issues right up at the front of the field. He blinks in and out, and tight between the 41 and the 99 coming out of turn number 2. They might have banged fenders here coming out of turn number 2. As there might be donuts in the side of that number 99, because that was definitely very, very tight right up at the front of the field.
Wish there was donuts up here with us in the tower, because I'm getting a little hungry, but we got 15 laps to go, and this is going to be an insane finish. And Tim Knott again getting close with Brian Yazik. That's the 3rd time today those two have side drafted very, very close to each other. So Bonner able to get the lead back, but man, it seems like every time the 41 and the 55 get close to each other side by side, they are side drafting off each other, and sometimes it's going awry. Now Eckhart getting up a little close there with the 55 of Yazik.
14 laps to go here at Daytona, folks. That is 35 miles here around the famed 2.5-mile Daytona International Speedway, the world center of speed, and we're 3 wide on 3 wide TV. Look at the Yenish. That is the 89 right there, trying to get up to the number 23, 3 wide in the middle. Evan Black on the outside, Adam Jersky in the number 69 down there on the inside. Jackson Van Valkenburg in the 12, trying to go around there on the high side. And they're also catching a little bit of lap traffic. That is the number 1 of Jason Stewart, who has quite a bit of damage. Something must have happened to the number 1 of Jason Stewart. Not exactly sure. He's going to go a lap down here as they sort things out and go back to 2x2. But something must have happened to the number 1 of Jason Stewart. I'm going to do a little bit of investigation work here, Greg.
More connection issues. This time it's Larry Orn in the number 31 as Peter goes trying to figure out what happened to the number 1 of Jason Stewart, as Steve Young is now 3 wide on the outside. He's going to get hung out to dry there by Evan Black, and it does not look like his brother's going to pick him up. Yes, he is. He's going to back off. But
And I have what happened to the number 1 of Jason Stewart. There was contact between himself and Gary Reynolds Jr. coming through the tri-oval. Jason actually spun the number 1 machine down to the inside of the racetrack, almost made contact with the inside retaining wall on entry into turn number 1, but he was so far off the racing surface that we continue to stay green. That happened about 10 laps ago or so, and he now falls 1 lap down in the number 1 machine. So tough break here for Jason Stewart, who we were mentioning earlier. He's definitely a gambler here in the American Sim Racing Series, and one to keep an eye on just about every single week. Meanwhile, up the front of the field, Brian Yazik just got himself up to the front of the field, and contact with the Bonner, and we're going
got the big
around.
one.
Big wreck
the
here.
Entire front of the field, the entire lead pack.
And just like that, it goes from first to worst for Brian Yazik. A bump gone wrong from the number 99 of Clarence Bonner, and that is heavy, heavy damage. The first caution flag waves here at Daytona. And Greg, I gotta say, that probably won't be the last. Let's go back and see this one on the replay.
No, it's going to be all in from here on. Let's take a look at the 3-wide TV replay. Brian Yazik gets the lead, and right there, it just breaks out. Contact with Clarence Bonner, and all of a sudden, this entire race just got turned on its lid. Here's another look at it. There's Yazik in the 55, right about there. Just a little bit of contact. And unfortunately, it's like in the worst possible spot you can go. And Yazik goes up, collects Bonner. Evan Black gets a piece. Now, what an amazing piece of driving there by Tim Knott. in the number 41. Wow, what a save by the 12 car as well of Jackson Van Valkenburg. He was pointed down towards the inside wall, and he was able to save it. Oh, no, that was Eckhart I was watching, not Tim Knott. On board here. Yeah, Tim Knott gets caught up in it. That's not Tim Knott I was watching. My apologies on that one. But John Eckhart did a great job getting through that there as well. On board here with Eckhart. Watch him squeeze his way through there. There's the contact right there. Yazik shoots up the track and whoo! Just barely gets through. Wow! You saw the 55 pointed up. And then look at the back here. See if we can see the 12 car Van Valkenburg. Can't really see it from that angle. But he did a spectacular job making a save. There he is, all the way there at the bottom. Oh, he did get a piece at the very end.
Yeah, Corey Silva came across and unfortunately just kind of booped him right there at the end of that one. But definitely a huge wreck right at the top of the field. Drivers really making it through out of that lead pack without any damage. Eckhart in the number 45, we know he was able to squeak through. Adam Jersky in the number 69 looks like he squeaked through. The 31 of Larry Orn was able to get through, but then you kind of have to go all the way back to the back portion of that group, including Jeff Yenish in the number 89, who was able to get by with no damage. But out of that lead pack, I think we just had, 9 of 12 cars just get wadded up?
Yeah, it looks to be that way. The only ones I'm seeing right now up in the top 5 that were not caught up in that were Eckhart, Jersky, and Orn. Everyone else on the top 5 right now was caught up in that. And Orn, he had the same kind of situation as Grant Brown a moment ago, where connection issues at the absolute perfect time got him through that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see now how many more caution flags will we see. Will we see any more as we have just gotten into the final 10 laps here at Daytona? It'll probably be about a 7 or 8 lap shootout when we eventually go back green. You see Evan Black. What a race it has been for him. There's the number 23 of Jeff Yenish. He's trying to beat the pace car to the end of the line. There's the 99 of Bonner trying to do the same thing. So those cars with heavy damage, but they will stay on the lead lap. And there's Corey Silva, his return to American Sim Racing Series Premier Cup Series. Will end up with one very, very, very damaged race car. And folks, 1 to green up at the front of the field. A quickie yellow here at Daytona. I was expecting to go one more lap. I was going to see if we could maybe pull in one of the drivers for a quick word, but we know there's a lot on the line here to pick up tonight's Homenet Hosting 250 here to try and win race number 1 of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series season here on 3Wide TV. I want to thank each and every one of you in the chat for joining us here tonight. Stephen Hollingsworth, we've seen him here on 3Wide TV here before. Aunt Kathy, I said hello in the chat earlier, Aunt Kathy, but hopefully you're having a good night. The DMLC Racing Channel, John Jenkins, Ranger Danger, saying boom goes the dynamite. There you go. Adam Blattel saying, I'm still impressed with 89 laps clean. Bravo. Yeah, definitely very impressive here tonight to make it to that point. Noble Warrior 88, Trey Clark in the chat, Chris Lanini, Sim Racing Realtor. I know somewhere in here, Nikki Warsler is in the chat, Jim Foose. Folks, hopefully you're having a good night here on 3Wide TV and you're enjoying the Homenet Hosting 250, the start of the 2021 Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. But while I've been looking through the chat, we're working our way out of turn number 4 here, Greg. Green flag in the flagman's hand. We're about to get set to have a little bit of a shootout at Daytona.
Peter, we went 89 laps clean and green. A spectacular job by these drivers. But now it's time to throw all your chips on the table because there are 8 laps to go here at the restart. And John Eckhart with a big lead. That might be a little bit too big of a lead going off into turn number 1. I think we're going to see the Cheesecake Power on the outside here as Jersky's going to try to line him up. No, he's going to stay in line behind Eckhart. I thought for sure that the Beef Jersky's Cheesecake's Camaro was going to try to make the move around him.
But how about these cars, Greg? The ones that were in those 2nd and 3rd and 4th groups, now they're back with a shot at winning the Homenet Hosting 250, including Greg Evans in the number 2 machine. He's going to jump up to the high side to try and pick up Jeff Yenish in the number 89 Toyota. He was one of those drivers in that front group to just barely squeak through that big melee that we had. We did see one lucky dog. I believe that actually went to the Will Warser number 18 machine of Doug Mullins. But that outside line now starting to get formed up nice and neatly. Can the 89 of Yenish pull up to the front as they start to break up? The 69 of Jersky and the 45 of Eckhart just became detached there through the trioval, and you can kind of see that allowed that outside line of Yenish to pull side by side now for the race lead coming down to turn number 2.
Look who's second in line on the outside. Ding, ding. Here's the defending champion, Greg Evans, with a push on Jeff Yenish in number 89, who's got the nose in front right now. But there is the defending champion. You're on board with the 2 of Evans, who has rode quietly around 15th this entire race, and then caught the break on the caution, was far enough back, wasn't caught up in it, and here he is with a shot at the win in the season opener.
Greg, are you surprised that Greg Evans has found himself up towards the podium at this point of the race? I'm not surprised at that at all. Like he said, just biding his time. He's actually been one of those drivers who's been laying back kind of at the back of the lead group when he can, just in case something shakes out that he needs to go and avoid. Well, it happened. He avoided it, and now here he is pushing the number 89 machine of Yenish to the race lead down the backstretch.
Got Woody Mahan behind him as well, another one of the loud pedal cars. Remember, Peter, second half of the season, Greg Evans kind of had an unofficial working relationship with Loud Pedal Motorsports. Have to wonder if that's continuing here in this season, especially this race, because he's got not one but 2 Loud Pedal cars behind him. We've got Jordan Harnish, who joined Loud Pedal Motorsports this year, lined up third in line. And by the way, Evans is now leading the outside line. 5 laps to go. Yenish leads the way, but Greg Evans has the number 2 on the outside. Will we see the defending champion lead a lap for the first time?
5 laps to go, and you can tell things are getting racy, Greg. Not only are we side by side, but we're starting to finally see a little bit of side drafting. You see that inside groove, they start to break up a little bit. They actually went down there below the yellow line. That's one thing we haven't mentioned here tonight, how difficult it is to follow the car in front. Greg Evans is going to drop to the low side. He's going to go back up to pick up the number 84 of the Woody Mahan Speed Laboratories Ford. Woody Mahan now up into the second position as we're coming to 4 laps to go, tight here at Daytona.
Evans is going to lead the lap with 4 laps to go. Greg Evans wins his first lap of the day. Under pressure now from Jordan Harnish on the outside. He's in a new car this season. Got some Paul Menard vibes on board. No certain someone in the chat's going to love seeing that vibe on that car. But Evans goes up the block on the 27, a bump off of turn number 2, and Evans opens the door for Mahan on the inside, who's going to get hooked up and get a push from Yenish down the backstretch. Evans goes down to pick them up. That's going to open the door for Harnish again. He's got to run on the outside.
And how about the Midwest Simulations Pole Award winner, the number 88 of Thomas J. George? He was part of that second group of cars. He needed a caution flag. Now he's back in the mix. He's pushing the number 27 machine of Harnish to the lead here. 3 more laps to go at Daytona, and looks like the 27 has cleared the inside groove. What's he going to do? He drops down in front of the 2 of Evans. I don't know if that's a good move or not, Greg, but we've seen that outside line make a couple of passes. Now Jimmy McKee's second car in line trying to push the 88 to the race lead.
3 of the championship 4 from last season are all right here in the top 10 as they make their way past Steve Yenish. You got Evans in second. McKee currently being scored in 6th. Jersky right behind McKee in line. 3 of the 4 finalists from last year all in the mix here. John Jenkins not in the field tonight, but watching at home. No doubt wishing he was out here as they battle it out side by side. 2 laps to go. Harnish leads the lap. 1 car in the wall. Crowbox in the wall. He's going to fight. He stayed green for now. Crowbox able to get by everybody, but wow. Almost another caution. Can we get back to the line and we can take the white flag? We'll see it this time if we make it.
And they're 3 wide coming out of turn number 2 down the backstretch. They sort that back out to go 2 by 2. It is not going to be the number 72's year to win the Homenet Hosting 250, but up at the front, going off into turn number 3 for the penultimate time, Greg Evans and Jordan Harnish, and the 84 machine's blowing up, and here we go!
No, there we go!
Big wreck. We got the 45
Eckhart going for a ride.
45 of Eckhart going over and over, and that all went down when the number 84 Woody Mahan's engine grenaded right at the front of the field. Just pushed it a little bit too hard, and Greg, we didn't make it to the white flag. We're going to have a green-white checker here at Daytona.
First of 3 attempts at a green-white checkered, but we have a lot to unpack on this one. Green-white TV replay. Mahan's motor expires and Eckhart goes to Six Flags.
Yeah, Eckhart went for quite the ride. That is a terrible end to a long race. I know I've been in that position before, Greg, and when you get wrecked with 2 laps to go, it is just a gut punch. You feel like you just had the wind taken out of you when you're so close to seeing out the checkered flag. A bunch of other cars involved. Pete Baskins, the DMLC Racing Channel machine. Adam Hogland, who was having a great recovery in the number 9 machine. We also saw the number 13, Gary Reynolds Jr. involved. The 44 of Michael Whiting, who we haven't mentioned up. We also, I think, saw Steve Yenish involved in that one. So both Yenishes having terrible luck here in the closing laps. But that is a ton of cars here now going onto the wrecker. We're going to have to sort things out and find out how many cars are left out of that one, because that, Greg, that one takes the cake of the big one.
Oh, definitely. That is, without a doubt, the big one here. Look at the 45 of Eckhart going for a ride. Adam Jersky, did he make it through that? That green car right there, the Beef Jersky's Cheesecakes Emporium, Chevy Camaro, second in points last year. Did he get through that?
I believe he somehow, some way, was able to squeak his way through that. And not only did he squeak his way through that, he kind of Days of Thundered his way through that. I think he got a little bit of luck with maybe a little bit of warpage. As you can kind of see, he just kind of
just a little.
He just kind of warps his way through. No big deal.
That's the power of cheesecake right there, baby.
That is the power of cheesecake. And speaking of cheesecake, Jordan Harnish in the number 27 machine is the race leader. So we got a couple of the Beef Jersky's Cheesecake Emporium machines up there inside the top 10, with Jersky running currently in 7th according to the iRacing scoring pylon, and Jordan Harnish currently your race leader. But Greg Evans in 2nd, Thomas J. George in 3rd, as you go on board with Eckhart, who really took it to the moon there coming out of turn number 4.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Amazing, though, that he was able to keep driving after that. But, wow. That was a ride.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a not the night that John Eckhart was hoping for here at Daytona. Let's see if we can possibly dial up one of these drivers here before we quickly get the one to go. Let's see if we can get... trying to find someone. Let's see if we can get the number 45 of John Eckhart. I know he was just involved in that accident. We'll get a quick word with him, which gives us a little bit of time because I'm expecting us to get the one to go this time. Hey, John Eckhart, Peter Short, 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
I have a copy.
Well, I'll tell you what, John, you had a stellar night going all night long, right up there in the top 5, and it's always a gut punch when you end up spinning up in the air there with just a couple laps to go here at Daytona. But that's kind of what happens with all the madness going on right there at the end. Tell us a little bit about your nights and how crazy it is out there.
As you know, this is my first race in the ASRS Premier Series League, and a lot of fun. You know, you've got your teammates, you've got your manufacturing teammates, and then your teammates, whoever's behind you as well. So you got to learn to work with everybody is what I've learned out here tonight. I had a fast car, led a lot of laps, worked with a lot of people, and as you saw, you know, a little bit of too hard a push in there at the end, and it just blew up.
Yeah, that has the tendency to happen, but I'll tell you what, a great night for you here tonight, and hopefully we'll see you back across the season. Definitely expecting good things out of you. Welcome to the series, and before we let you go, any shout-outs?
I got to give a shout-out to K7 Racing for letting me join this team. Nick Curling with the paints, Toyota sponsors as well. I got some buddies watching at home, Kevin and Mark, so shout-outs to them, and just a fun night overall. I'm really happy to be here.
Very much, well, you know, tough break right there at the end, but hopefully we'll see you again next week.
All right, Peter.
All right, well, good news is John Eckhart is still alive after flipping and flying. But up at the front of the field, Greg, we're about to go back green as that Chevy Silverado is about to head down pit road.
All right, buckle up. First attempt at a green-white-checkered. Have we seen the last visit of the yellow flag as we come around? Green flag in the air. Here we go. Harnish leading the way. He's got the pole sitter, Thomas J. George, behind him. They both look like they're going to be able to clear Evans here. We are not done yet. Here we go.
Great restart for those two there on the inside line to stay nose to tail. That is going to put Jordan Harnish out front, but you can see that outside line starting to build momentum here coming out of turn number 2. And look at the 88 of George. Great move there to jump to the top side right in front of the number 2 of Greg Evans. And now Evans giving that 88 a push all the way down the backstretch. And you can see they clear the number 27, and they're going to drop down to the inside. Look at Jimmy McKee there. And then Lou look on that number 8 machine. He's going to try and get a run from a little bit of help from AJ Digby, who's worked his way up towards the top 5. White flag in the air.
Twitter verified AJ Digby trying to give a push to Jimmy McKee. White flag in the air. Thomas George leads the way. Here we go. We have ourselves a race. It's on now. Next flag will end it as they go into turn number 1. Thomas George leading the way. Evans right there on the bottom, peeking low. Watch that outside lane of McKee and Digby to get a run off of turn number 2. Here they come down the backstretch for the final time.
And Digby is going to push all he can do to Jimmy McKee because that inside groove, they're locked up. Evans cannot make a move, or can he? Can Evans move up right in front of Jimmy McKee? Now would be the time to do it as he clears the number 8 machine. What about Jordan Harnish? He's kind of locked in his position. Harnish going to jump up in front of the number 8. Now the 2 of Evans, they're going to be side by side, right to the line. Greg Evans going to be where he was at the end of the season and win at Daytona.
And we crash after the line. Greg Evans gets the win by 1/100th of a second. He only led 2 laps, but he led the lap that counts. Greg Evans, winner. Here, the season opener, the Homenet Hosting 250. Greg Evans gets it done.
Picking up exactly where he left off, the 2020 Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. Greg Evans picks up win number 1 of the season. Picked up 12 last season. He's trying to beat that number this year, and he's already got 1 in the bag. Race number 1. Look at this run to the checkered flag. Pulled the move. The 88 ran him up the racetrack, and just not enough. George coming home in second to Evans's number 2 machine. What a run to the end. Wow, folks, if that's any indication of what you're going to see here this year on 3-Wide TV, the American Sim Racing Series, folks, you're going to want to be here every single week because these drivers, they know not only how to put on a heck of a show for the fans, but they know how to wheel it, Greg.
Unbelievable. Greg Evans picking up, like you said, right where he left off. He is going to burn it down here in the front stretch at Daytona. And how about it for Thomas J. George as well? He's doing a little celebrating of himself, and very, very much well-earned for that 88 car. Making his debut, gets the pole, and comes home in second. Unbelievable effort in his debut for Thomas J. George tonight. But it's all about that young man right there, Greg Evans, of stellar job tonight in that number 2 car. Patience, and it pays off. He wins at Daytona.
Yeah, and also, I think like you mentioned a little bit earlier in the broadcast, newly a father in that number 2 machine as well. So I'm sure he will be very excited not only about what's going on here on the racetrack, but off the racetrack in his personal life, burning it down here on the front stretch. This is one race. I don't care whether you hate super speedway racing, you love super speedway racing, or anywhere in between. This is one race you want to win. You want to win at Daytona, and the Homenet Hosting 250 here tonight. Race number 1 of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, burning it down there across the grass of Daytona. Very Earnhardt-esque right there in that number 2 machine. But like you said, great run for the number 88 machine to come home second in his debut. What about Jordan Harnish in the number 27 machine? We didn't see enough of Jordan Harnish on the podium last season in the American Sim Racing Series, but here he is at Daytona coming home in third in what was gonna go down as an instant classic here in the American Sim Racing Series.
Absolutely stellar performance by these drivers. There you see Harnish in the 27. And man, coming up here through turn 4, which you're looking at right now on the 3-Wide TV replay, we had no clue what to expect when they came off turn number 4. All we knew was they were not coming across the line the way they were right here. You knew something was going to happen. And right here, I thought Harnish was going to try to make his move. And then Evans just times it absolutely perfectly to not only pick up Harnish and get the push, but it left just enough time to get his nose in front of George. Outstanding timing by Greg Evans.
Yeah, and that is going to be one of the best finishes you're going to see at Daytona in iRacing, period. What a great, skillful move there by the number 2. He left it late, but he left it to just the right time. And folks, I cannot wait to get to talk to the Homenet Hosting 250 winner here tonight once he gets his way to victory lane here on 3Wide TV, because we have post-race interviews lined up for you here in just a moment. But wow, what a great race.
Fantastic stuff here from the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. This is why we were so excited to be back on 3Wide TV. Outstanding race, 89 laps caution-free, and then a wild green-white-checkered, and unbelievable finish. I mean, really, there's nothing left to do except talk to the top 3.
Yeah, we definitely need to make sure that we can get all of them. Just trying to get the number 27 machine of Jordan Harnish, and I believe that we have now got him. So why don't we just jump straight into it, Greg, and see if we can pick up with the number 27 of Jordan Harnish. Just coming up a little bit short here tonight was the 27 of Jordan Harnish. Jordan, Peter Short, 3Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
10-4, I'm here.
Well, I'll tell you what, right there when we went back green, I wasn't sure if we were going to have another green-white checker, but you led us back to green right there in that Beef Jerky's Cheesecakes Emporium number 27 with a couple of the Paul Menard vibes on it. Anything you think that you could have done differently on that restart that could have gotten you the checkered flag tonight?
Fortunately, I didn't think there was much I could do. I didn't have much help behind me. Adam was a couple 2 cars far back on the restart. There was no one else that I thought was going to stick it out with me. And of course, since we got to the backstretch, my thoughts became true.
You know, all things considered, kind of a roller coaster for you here tonight, because you were kind of in that second group of cars there for a while that you didn't seem like you were able to make all too many inroads on that front group. But as soon as that caution flew with about 10 laps to go, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, after that first pit stop, missing the pit box really did not help matters. And then having to ride around the back of that pack, we just were not making any headway at all. I thought we were pretty much out of the count at that point. Second pit stop came around and was able to make up about 5 seconds on just the pit stop, and got with a much faster group of cars and took off like rocket ships. And when the caution came out, I knew we had somewhat of a chance to get back to the front.
Well, you definitely did so, and you're starting off the season on a good note. It's going to be a long season. I mean, you know the drill. You were, of course, here last season in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. What races are you looking forward to on the schedule?
The short tracks is where it's at. Hopefully get a little bit better on the mile and a half to make a full season out of it. Don't have any intentions of missing any races this year, so looking like it's going to be a good season.
Yeah, definitely is going to be a long one all the way through November. Very much looking forward to it each and every week here. Jordan, of course, we got Homestead, Miami. We stay in Florida for next week, 3Wide TV 200. Will we see you at Homestead, and you're looking forward to it?
Can't say I'm looking forward to Homestead, but you will see me there in some capacity, yes.
All right. Well, before we let you go, Jordan, great run here tonight. Any shout-outs here on 3Wide TV?
I gotta thank Loud Pedal Motorsports, Custom Paints and Diecast, Beef Jerky's Cheesecake Emporium, Patriot Media Marketing, and everybody else that got me to this point this week.
Absolutely. Well, Jordan, great to have you here on the post-race show. Congratulations on your third place finish, and best of luck next week at Miami, even though you might not be exactly looking forward to it. We'll see you then.
Yes.
All right, that's going to do it for our third place interview and the number 27 machine of Jordan Harnish. And let's see if Greg Brentz has caught up with our second place finisher, the 88 of Thomas George.
And Thomas George, second place here tonight. You led 5 laps on the day, but wow, your debut in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, you get the pole, you're leading coming off of turn number 4 in the debut race. You come home second. Obviously, you're going to want to win, but all said, that is a spectacular debut for you.
I'll take it, considering I kind of screwed myself on those pitch strategies and dropping to the back, but I honestly couldn't believe I got the pole on that one. I'm not particularly good at restrictor plate qualifying, and I'm I'm glad that caution came out. At least the one that got me back up there. But just to lose to a teammate, I can take that. It's fine. We both got a 1-2, and I mean, I'm not going to fault him for making that move. Greg had to. I mean, when the 27 made that move, I knew it was there, and I just had to do what I could. But maybe I should have doored Greg. I don't know. I'll take what I can.
Well, you mentioned there that last caution, and you were relieved to see it because it got you back into position here. Tell us about what led to you having to be in that position before the caution, and what goes through your mind when the caution comes out, knowing all of a sudden, hey, now I got another shot. Tell us about what happened and why you weren't there at the beginning of that run, and what goes through your mind after that.
Part of it was just that first pit stall at Daytona under green flag. It absolutely kills you to get up to speed. When Greg and I had pitted with the other pack there, I knew it would be tough for me to get out of the stall, and wheels just kept spinning, and I had to get under control. By the time I got it going, Greg was gone, and I was just basically having to catch up the rest of the race. And the pack I was in just couldn't push enough to get there, couldn't get organized enough. And then once the caution came out and restarted 12th, I think, I was just like, all right, this is what I wanted. I wanted a shot. If we wreck, we wreck. If we don't, we don't. And got about as close to winning an opening race as I've ever been in any league I've been part of.
Well, now we're on to Homestead Miami Speedway, going just down the road to Miami, Florida. A track very, very different to Daytona, but another chance for you to flex your muscles here to start the season off. What are you expecting out of the 88 camp going to Homestead next week?
With the 550 horsepower package and the high downforce, I'm not going to like it. I'm expecting but I expect top 10 speed of myself at least. I'm very good when it comes to mile and a halves, and at least in my opinion. But there's a lot of drivers that I've raced in, but I haven't I've raced a lot of drivers in here, but there are some I haven't. So just take it 1 week at a time and see where we fall into. Hopefully we can advance that position one up and take home a win.
Well, Thomas, we have a thing we do here with the podium on 3Y TV. The last question we always give them is, who got you here? So a chance for the first time on 3Y TV to thank your sponsors.
Just thank all my teammates, and that helped me out. Greg, especially in this league, getting me here. Steel Horse Racing, always been there with them for almost 8 years. 8 years now. Basically a family. Just thank Snap-on for coming on board and basically giving me all the tools I need to work with on my car, like I always do. Maverick Designs, this paint scheme was made by Greg, and it's absolutely beautiful. Love it. It's bad, or not. Well, I don't want to say the other word that goes with that because it's an awesome paint scheme, but censorship, I know. And okay, it's a badass paint scheme. There you go. Hey man, they're cracking down on censorship. I don't know what you could say and what you can't say anymore. So if I didn't have that filter,
the general rule, and I have a hot mic right now. The general rule is anything you can say in television is acceptable here.
Oh, sure then. We're good then. But now, thank you to everybody back at Steel Horse and all the sponsors and everything, and you guys for doing the broadcast and for all the admins putting on the show. And that was a quality race. I mean, I love when races go green flag like that and not be caution riddled. But you kind of expect a caution at Daytona towards the end. So, but other than that, it was a great race.
And an unbelievable performance for you. A great debut. We'll see you next week at Homestead. Second place for Thomas George. A great debut. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And I believe Peter Short has made his way down to Victory Lane with a guy we talked to 12 times in Victory Lane last season. And we get to start it off again. Peter Short has caught up with race winner Greg Evans.
I'm down here with winner of the 2021 Homenet Hosting 250 champion, that being your reigning Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series champion, none other than Greg Evans. And Greg, right at the end of the race, I said to Greg Rentz, I said, Is it any surprise that Greg Evans has somehow found himself back up in the top 5 right here with 5 laps to go? We both went to each other and said, no, absolutely not. You have just a knack of finding yourself up at the front of the field at the end of these races, even on super speedways. I know you're not the biggest fan of them, but here again at Daytona, you always want to win the first race of the season, and you did so here again tonight. Tell us about it.
Yeah, man, I ain't gonna lie. I hate Daytona and Talladega. But I mean, we always seem to, have pretty good runs here. But I was just telling Jordan, I was like, dude, I'm so glad this is over. We can get back to some regular tracks. But man, we had a good strategy going into the race. And I wanted to qualify and get a decent pit stop or pit number. And the first 5 laps, I realized I just did not want to be up there. So I started kind of just dropping back and making my way back, and just kind of ran about mid-pack all race. And then we let the pit stops kind of cycle everybody out, just kind of stay with the lead pack. And, these races take a whole lot of luck, and, luck was just on our side tonight. We had, Thomas J. George, he came over here with me for a teammate, and I couldn't do it without him tonight. But man, it was just a heck of a race, a heck of a finish there too.
Well, this is with about 20 laps to go or so, there was what looked like a wreck happening with the 00 getting completely sideways. You had a big checkup for that, and you lost the lead pack of cars. Were you kind of realizing there's more than likely going to be a yellow at some point? Don't freak out. Just stay in line. Try and hold position. What was going through your mind at that point when you could see the lead pack just driving away from you?
Well, our plan was just trying to get in line and try to catch them. I honestly did not think there would be a wreck, especially out of the lead pack, just because we had been pretty much clean all night long. So my focus was trying to catch them. And then when we got that caution, a couple guys pitted, and I think we restarted 5th or 6th. And that's when I started thinking, we've got to make some moves and be aggressive now. And then, Thomas George got up there with us. And I really can't remember how it all cycled out, but we got to a point where, we were on the outside, me and him together, and I thought we had a chance to win the race. And that last caution came out, and then me and him was kind of talking about, if he cleared me, I would push him. If I cleared him, he would push me. And it just worked out to where, he was in front of me whenever he pushed Jordan. And, we made a move on him, got to the lead. And I knew coming off turn 4 that the 27 was going to pull out. And I knew there was help on the outside. And me and Thomas, we've been teammates for a long time. If it was vice versa, we'd done the exact same thing. He'd have made a move on me and tried to win the race. But man, it's just I'm glad it worked out the way it did. I'm glad we had a 1-2 finish for our team. Can't ask for much better than that.
Well, I said as you crossed the start-finish line to take the win, you started the season the way you ended last season, atop the board, taking home win number 1. You had 12 wins last season. It's another long year here on 3-Wide TV in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, all the way to early November, and a lot of new races on the schedule this year. Any races standing out to you that you're looking forward to going to this season?
I'm looking forward to going back to Darlington, of course, North Wilkesboro. I'm pretty sure we got Coda on the schedule. I've never raced there, so that'll be interesting. Man, it's just, I look forward to every race except Daytona and Talladega, to be honest with you.
Well, hey, you got one of those off the list here tonight. Next week, we go to Homestead, Miami for the 3-Wide TV 200, and I'm sure you're hoping for a good showing there this year after last year's showing didn't quite go to plan. What are your thoughts about Homestead?
And I absolutely love Homestead. And thanks for reminding me. I was thinking about that when you saying that. I think we led like the first 20 laps and pitted and then got caught up in a wreck coming through the field. But man, Homestead's probably one of my favorite tracks to race, honestly. So I think we'll have a good show in there. So like I said, we just got to put some work in this week and get ready for that too.
Yeah, definitely going to be a fun one right here on 3-Wide TV, the 3-Wide TV 200. As that race is known. Greg, I know you know the drill right here on the channel. We always let you give those shout-outs right at the end, so let's hear them.
Man, I've got to thank Maverick Concepts. That's my business that I do with paint jobs. So you need one done, let me know. Be glad to help you out. Of course, I got duct tape and sure tape and Freightliner. Hacksaw PC, man, they have built me an amazing PC from last year that I won. I cannot thank Nick enough and those guys. He is a blast to work with. Got my Sam Maxwell custom steering wheel on here too. Can't thank Sam enough. And I still got to put my trophy together from last year. But I'm still working on that, so hopefully I'll have a picture up pretty soon. And also, man, I've got to dedicate this to my daughter. She's just a week and a half old in the NIC unit. It's been it's been an amazing 2 weeks with her, with everything that's happened, and can't wait to get her home, get her in the simulator. And I got to thank my wife for letting me do this. So, and just thank God for blessing everything with her and my daughter. Man, like I said, it's been a heck of a 2 weeks, but he's had his hand on everything and just can't thank him enough.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on many different things there in your walks of life, but winning the Homenet Hosting 250 here tonight, Greg. We'll see you again next week. Looking for a little bit of redemption of Homestead Miami at that 1.5 mile racetrack. Best of luck there, Greg.
Thank you, guys. And thank you, like I said from last year, thank you guys for hosting this. Whenever y'all do this and broadcast these races, man, it changes everything. I've got 4 or 5 messages from people that were watching, congratulating me and stuff. So just thank you guys, and thank ASRS for hosting it. With 3YTV and ASRS teamed up, it makes for an awesome league.
It is definitely a lot of fun, Greg. Like I said, we'll see you again next week right here on 3YTV.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, well, Greg, what a crazy night here at Daytona. All that green flag running until right there in the final 10 laps or so. A couple of cautions, but all in all, fantastic finish. Could not have asked for a better side-by-side run right to the start-finish line.
No, you really couldn't, Peter. It was a spectacular finish to the race, but one final order of business to take care of. We got to take a look at the unofficial results.
Absolutely. And Greg Evans picking up win number 1 of the season. That win tally got up to 12 at the end of last year, and he's already got 1 on the mark here this year. Thomas J. George, his teammate, coming home in 2nd. Jordan Harnish coming home in 3rd. Jimmy McKee, one of your championship 4 from last year, made the final round of the playoffs, coming home in 4th. AJ Digby finishing there in 5th. Larry Orr, great run for him in his Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series debut. Adam Jersky coming home in 7th. Danny Gutierrez also making his Hacksaw PC's debut here tonight, coming home right behind him. Alan Young coming home in 9th. Troy Haight rounding out the top 10. Grant Brown, Michael Krobach, there 11th and 12th. Nick Curling in 13th. Gary Reynolds Jr. 14th, and rounding out your top 15, Tim Knott there, Greg.
Jackson Van Valkenburg back in the series finishes in 16th position, with Pete Baskins in the new number 39 coming home in 17th. Joshua Biddle in the 18th position. Michael Whiting and Jeremy Banning round out top 20 in this one. You're going to find Scott Eckrich in the number 70 coming home 21st. He led 2 laps on the day. Jonathan Holstein, another driver back in the field here this season, he finishes 22nd. Tyler Seville led 4 laps in the early going. Unfortunately, doesn't work out for him. He finishes 23rd. His teammates Doug Mullins and Will Worsler come home in 24th and 25th position. Mark Myers coming home in 26th. Michael Larch, another driver making his debut, comes home 27th. Richard Fletcher, another Will Worsler car, 28th. Jason Stewart, 1 lap down after having an incident earlier. Evan Black, the pole sitter, or outside pole sitter, led 10 laps, but finished 30th, Peter.
Yeah, John Eckhart, who did all those acrobatics in turn number 4. We've got a quick word from him. He's going to come home in 31st, which is a disappointing finish for the man who had a stellar run up to that point. Clarence Bonner coming home 32nd in the Dirty Bird Sim Racing team. Woody Mahan also had a good run going until that engine grenaded there in turn number 4, finishing 33rd. Jeff Yenish wasn't the night that the Yenishes were looking for there, 34th and 37th. Adam Hoagland there, splitting them in 35th. Same with Nick Gardner, who had a good run going as well. Corey Silva down there in 38th, not the return to the season he wanted. And then we have the 2 drivers rounding out your field here tonight, Brian Yazik and Cody Spiker. And Greg, it took us over 200 miles for us to get that first retirement here tonight. Only 2 caution flags on the night. Very, very impressive. As you see the point standings right there, we'll see if those are the unofficial point standings after tonight, with Greg Evans and the number 2 machine starting the season exactly where he left off last year, Greg.
And no doubt happy to get that started off the way that he did tonight. And how about it for Thomas George, leading 5 laps in his debut, getting the pole and finishing second, coming up about 20 feet short of a win. But unbelievable night here at Daytona to kick off the 2021 Hacksaw PC's Premier Series season. And you can't ask for a better way to start it off.
No, you cannot. Definitely a great way to kick off the 2021 season, and I'm looking forward to it all season long, all the way into the month of November, where we'll wrap up the season. It's going to be a lot of races, Greg, and glad to have each and every one of them right here on 3-Wide TV all the way until the Gunskins.com Phoenix Championship 200. But we want to give a shout out to some of the sponsors that we have, of course, this year in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, starting with Hacksaw PC's. Sim Speed Shop, they will be the ones sponsoring the Wheelman Showdown. A little bit of a spoiler there from earlier. We got Dirty Bird Sim Racing sponsoring races this year. Gunskins.com sponsoring races. Make sure you check them out. American as well. So a lot of people on board this year. Lucid Hue Pet Portraits. They'll be sponsoring the race at Richmond in September. A lot of people coming together to make this series possible, all the way from the Homenet Hosting Daytona 250 all the way to the Gunskins.com Phoenix Championship 200. Greg, going to be a lot of good racing each and every week.
Yeah, cannot wait to see it all unfold here. Unfortunately, I won't be here for the next 2 broadcasts as I got to finish up some prior obligations on another channel. But once those are done, I'm coming back to the Hacksaw PC series for the remainder of the season. Peter, I cannot wait to watch these next 2 races unfold. Can't wait to be back with you for race number 4 moving forward.
Yeah, definitely going to be a fun one. Make sure you folks tune in next week for the 3-Wide TV 200. Same place, same time, right here on 3-Wide TV. And also check out some more action. We got more action here on the channel tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern. Make sure you tune into that, as well as Monday. We have races almost every night here on the channel midweek. So make sure you all come back to 3-Wide TV. Hit that like button on the video, the subscribe button, and definitely you won't want to miss next week at Homestead, Miami. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at SimTV for the camera angles here that we use on the channel each and every week. They're definitely a big friend of 3-Wide TV, so give them a subscribe as well. But Greg, I think it's about time to wrap things up. Final thoughts?
Man, it was an awesome race here at Daytona. So good to be back with the Hacksaw PC Premier Series. So good to be back on 3-Wide TV. And Greg Evans definitely getting it done in style. Again, picking up right where he left off. But the sun is setting here at Daytona. It's been one heck of a race, but we're on to Miami.
Absolutely, folks. We'll see you next week. Just a couple 100 miles away at Homestead, Miami. But until then, stay safe, and we shall see ya.